Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon. Are you hearing my voice? Good afternoon. Are you hearing my voice? నా వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తుందా మీకు? నా వాయిస్ వినిపిస్తుందా? Okay, right. So this class on the social and economic history of modern India. The second paper in our syllabus. The syllabus of this paper is covered with 5 modules. Among the 5 modules, we'll start a starting concept within the first module. The starting concept of the first module is sources of social and economic history of modern India. Likewise, the other papers, while starting the every paper, we are discussing with a certain sources. By the sources, we are easy to know the things in that particular paper. In the same way, we are going to see the social and economic history of modern India, which has the 5 modules. The whole concepts were divided into the 5 modules, each module having certain concepts. Among them, the first concept is source of the social economic history of modern. Okay, we'll start a certain introduction and we'll go for the various sources to study. Okay, so every history of a particular region, territory, state, or a nation. As usual, the sources may divide into literary and also archaeological sources or archaeological sources. Again, the archaeological sources may be divided into inscriptions, the coins, or any other remains like the monuments. In the literary source, it may be divided into the religious, secular. Again, these may divide into the indigenous sources and also the foreign accounts. So likewise, you'll see what are the important sources to know about the social and economic history of modern. Okay, so before going to those sources, you will see certain general introduction. Okay, so our paper, the starting from the 1707 and the syllabus is ending with 1947. Okay, so 1707 is the year in which the Aurangzeb is died. It means the end of the early Mughals period. Then the starting of the later Mughals rule. Okay, so from 1707 to 1947 is our duration of the syllabus. Okay, so within this period, within the 300 and above years, certain things have happened. Okay, so within this period, what are the important things has taken place? Okay, we'll see in a detailed manner in the further concepts. Okay, the next concept is the brief political history of this period. Okay, so before going to this, we'll see certain general introduction, and next we'll move to the sources of social and economic history of modern. Okay, so during the 17th and 18th century, India maintained a favorable balance of trade and had a steady economy. Self sufficient agriculture, flourishing trade, and rich handicraft industries were hallmark of Indian economy at that time. During the last half of the 18th century, India was conquered by East India Company. You are aware. Along with the consolidation of British political hegemony in India, there followed colonization of its economy and society. Colonization no longer functioned through the crude tools of plunder and tribute and mercantilism, but perpetuated through the more discussed and complex mechanism for free trade and foreign capital investment. The characteristic 19th century colonialism lay in the conversion of India into supplier of foodstuff and raw materials to the metropolis, a market for metropolitan manufacture and a field for investment of British capital. In the same way, Indian society in the 19th century. Okay, so the above what we discussed is economical concepts. Okay, now we will move to the Indian society or social concept. Okay, in the same way, Indian society in the 19th century was caught in a inhuman web created by the religious superstition and social obscuration. So Hinduism has become a compound of magic, animation, and superstition, and monsters of rites like animal sacrifice and physical torture had replaced the worship of God. The most painful was position of women. The British conquest and dissemination, colonial culture and ideology led to introspection about the strength and weakness of indigenous culture and civilization. Okay, so these are certain social and economical things you uh, uh, you can observe. Okay, so when you see the sources in 1868, the British scholar Hunter wrote, "Every country, almost every parish in England had its annals. But in India, vast provinces greater in extent than the British Islands have no individual history whatever, nor are the inhabitants themselves very much better acquainted with the history of the country in which they live." Like Hunter, many administrative scholars writing during the 19th century emphasized patently on two fundamental points. One, that in the modern notion of history writing, sources based on the authentic documentation and a linear notion of time were crucial to write political history. Second, most of the scholars found that there was a lack of information pertaining to the history of India, and that the Indians themselves were unacquainted with with their own past. This lack of historical sense in pre-colonial India, it was suggested, was primarily due to not only an absence of proper records to do so, but also due to lack of the sense of linear time among them. The discovery of inscriptions on the Indian subcontinent from the second half of the 19th century helped the energized these scholars to create a systematic documentation of source material for writing Indian history. Inscriptional source have, however, largely been used by Indologists to write political history of the different ruling families. Okay, so who are the Indologists? Indologists, nothing but the historians who the historians who work worked on the history of India. Okay, so they are the scholars who wrote the many books, and they are the researchers who done their research on many Indian concepts. Okay, so many Indologists who write the political history of the different ruling families. Okay, many ruling families are there when we see from the ancient to modern India. Okay, so in this lecture, I want to give the modern notion of history that singularly deals with linear notion of time to build an account of primarily political history with an account of much more complex notions of time encased in both literary and inscriptional source materials that have been used for this study. We argue that sources can be effectively used to write social history, not merely political one, which was in fact the main intent of the ruling elite in construction of their past, based on both memory and history as described in their records. Hence, we have largely used the same data that has hitherto been used to write a political history to recount a much more expensive social history. This study is challenging because not only have we patently moved away from the genre of writing merely regional political history to that of genre of social history at the regional level, but we do so by reading the sources in terms of their inherent perception of the past. Okay, so this raises major questions about the nature of sources being used to write this history and the various notions of that were embedded in them. Okay, so when you see about the history, an abundance of historical material available for the studying India from the mid 19th, 18th century to the 20th century. In constructing the history of modern India, priority needs to be given archives first. Okay, so archives nothing but the source. Okay, so archives refers to collection of historical records and documents, usually primary source documents, those documents that have been created as a necessary part of some activity, administrative, legal, social, and commercial. Okay, so before going to these, you have to see the source may be in two types. One is the primary and the secondary source. Okay, so the primary source is nothing but these are the base skill division. Okay, so primary source is nothing but those source which we find a primary material. Okay, secondary is sense it's a secondary material. Okay, so primary source mainly includes like inscriptions and remains, monumental remains, and coins. Okay, so these are and contemporary literary records comes under the primary, and when you see the secondary, these are source which is written by a particular author or a writer. Okay, so these called as the secondary source, right? So here they are unique and original documents, not concisely written or created to convey information to the future generation. Okay, so an important part of archives relating to modern India are the official records, the papers of government agencies at various levels. The records of East India Company provide a detailed account of trading conditions during the period 1600 to 1857. When the British Crown took over administration, it also kept a large variety and the volume of official records. These records help historians to trace every important development stage by stage and follow the process of decision making and the psychology of the policymakers. The records of other European East Indian companies like the Portuguese, Dutch, and French are also useful for constructing the history of 17th and 18th century. There are also many contemporary and semi-contemporary works as memories, biographies, and travel accounts, which gives us interesting as well as useful glimpses into the history of 18th and 19th century. Newspapers and journals made their appearance in the later part of 18th century, and they provide they provide very valuable information on almost all aspects of Indian society in the 19th and 20th centuries. Okay, so there are four categories of official records. One is central government archives, central government archives, state government archives, records of intermediate and subordinate authorities, and judicial records. Okay, so when you see the central government archives, the National Archives of India, located in New Delhi, contains most of the archives of Government of India. These provide authentic and reliable source material on varied aspects of modern Indian history. The records with the National Archives come under various groups representing different branches of the Secretariat at different stages of the development. Okay, so this happened as the work of East India Company was distributed among the various branches, public or general, revenue, political, military, and commercial and judicial and educational, etc. And a separate of record was kept for each these branches or the department. Okay, with the appointment of James Runnel as a first Surveyor General of Bengal in 1767, the Survey of India began to scientifically map the unknown regions of the country and its bordering lands. The records of Survey of India as well as the generals and memories of the surveys provide valuable information not only on geographical matters but also on contemporary socio-economic conditions and other important historical aspects. The proceedings of public, judicial, and legislative departments provide ample data for studying the social and religious policies of colonial government. The government policies on education and growth of education system the uh, colonial rule colonial rule are mentioned in the educational records of the central archives. Okay, so when you see the archives of the state governments, the source material in the state archives comprise records of the former British Indian provinces, the erstwhile princely states which were incorporated in the Indian Union after 1947, and the foreign administrations other than those of the British. Okay, apart from these, sorry, apart from these, the records of those Indian powers which were taken over by the British. For instance, the archives of the Kingdom of Lahore, popularly known as the Khalsa Darbar, records from 1800 to 1849 are important source material. Another important collection of free British public archives in India is the Peshwa Daftar House in the Alienation Office, Pune. Okay, where we find the abundance of source material. Okay, so it forms the most valuable single source for the study of Maratha history for a period almost a century before the fall of the Peshwa. Okay, so for the studying the history of princely states of Rajasthan, Jaipur, Bikaner, Jodhpur, Udaipur, etc. The archives of these states now housed in the Rajasthan State Archives at Bikaner are available. Okay. So similarly, the history of Dogra rule from 1846 in Jammu and Kashmir can be studied in the valuable collection of the state papers housed at Jammu. Okay, so other important archives of the princely states, those of Gwalior, Indore, Bhopal, and Rewa, all in Madhya Pradesh, and Travancore, Cochin in Kerala, Mysore in Karnataka, and Kolhapur in Maharashtra. Okay, so when you see the archives of three presidencies, Bombay, Madras, and Bengal. So the early records of Port William's Bengal presidency were lost during the sack of Calcutta in 1756, but the archives of Bengal presidency after the British victory at Plassey have survived more or less in complete series, which are partly available in the National Archives of India and partly in the State Archives of West Bengal. The records of the Madras Presidency began from 1670 and include records of the governor and the council of Fort St. George. In the records, there is plenty of information bearing on the rise of English East India Company as a political power in the south and in the Deccan, include the Anglo-French struggle and the English conflicts with other Indian powers. The archives of Bombay Presidency, housed in the Maharashtra Secretariat Record Office, Mumbai, yet still they are at present, are extremely useful in studying the history of Western India, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Sindh, and other Kannada-speaking districts of erstwhile Bombay Presidency, which are incorporated Mysore in 1956. Okay, so archives of other European powers. The archives related to Portuguese preserved in Goa, mainly belonging to the period between 1700 to 1900, are valuable for history of Portuguese questions in India. The orders and dispatches from Lisbon received in Goa and responses and reports dispatched from India to Portugal constitute the most significant historical material among the Portuguese are. The Dutch records of Cochin and Malabar in the Madras Record Office and those of Sinsura in the State Archives of West Bengal. Okay, so these are certain archives where the archaeological source or the literary source were preserved. When you see the judicial records, by the judicial records also you can know the history of modern India. When you see the judicial records, which is housed in Madras Record Office, the archives of Mayor's Court at St. Fort George, beginning from 1689, are the earliest available judicial archives. Okay, so the pre-Plassey records of the Mayor's Court at Port William have been lost, but these are for the year 1757 to 73 are kept in the record room of the Calcutta High Court, along with the archives of Supreme Court of Bengal. Okay. So similarly, the records of Mayor's Court at Bombay, established in 1728, are available in Maharashtra Secretariat Record Office, which also has the custody of archives of Bombay Records Court and the Supreme Court. Okay. Apart from these, the proceedings and minutes, uh, which uh, uh, which contains copies of wills, probates, and letters of administration, which are useful for genealogical studies, for investigations pertaining to the state and economic conditions in the respective region. When you see the published archives, the most significant archival and publications are the parliamentary papers, which include many experts from the records of East India Company and the government of India under the Crown. The court reports of the parliamentary selection committees, various royal commissions constituted on specific subjects like education, civil reforms and famines, and parliamentary debates on the Indian empire are a important records you find. Okay, so apart from these, when you see the foreign uh, repositories, a vast body of historical material related to the history of modern India is available in the repositories of erstwhile imperialist powers who ruled in different parts of the Indian subcontinent as well as in some other countries. In England, the India office records at London and the records kept in British Museum are very valuable. You find the certain records at present also. Indian office records possesses various important documents, the minutes of the courts of directors and general court of East India Company and various committees constituted from time to time, the minutes and correspondence of the board of control of are the Board of Commissioners for the Affairs of India and the records of Secretary of State and the Indian Council also you find. Okay, so apart from these, the records of Dutch East India Company are available at the place called the Hague. Okay, so the Danish and Portuguese records were kept in Copenhagen and the Lisbon respectively. Okay, so the West Pakistan Record Office Lahore, Record Office Peshawar records are also available at Sindh, etc. Give information about the regional history of Indian subcontinent besides shedding light on India's relation with Afghanistan, Iran, and other neighboring countries in colonial era. Okay, so apart from this, when you see the informal sources like the biographies, memories, and travel accounts, many travelers, traders, missionaries, and civil servants who came to India have left accounts of their experience and their impressions various parts of India. An important group among the writers was that of the missionaries who wrote encouraged their respective societies to send more missionaries to India for the purpose of evangelizing in its inhabitants. Okay, so in this process, Bishop Hebbers General and Abbe Dubai's Hindu manners and customs provide useful information on the socio-economic life of India during the period of decline of Indian powers and the rise of British. Some of famous British travelers who wrote travel accounts were George Foster, Benjamin Hayne, James Bernays, and Alexander Bernays. Alexander Bernays' work is Travels into Bokhara, and Davidson, Diary of Travels and Adventure in Upper India, and John Butler's Travels and Adventures in Province of Assam. And famous, apart from these, famous non-British travelers who wrote about India include Victor Jackman, the work Nothing But Letters from India, describing a journey in the British dominions of India, and Baron Charles travels in Kashmir and the Punjab. And apart from these, travel accounts are indispensable and generally reliable source for constructing the Indian history in the modern concept. Okay, and when you see certain newspapers and journals, when you see certain newspapers and journals of 19th and 20th centuries published in English as well as different vernacular languages